There will be inauguration on the May 29, 2023, and that inauguration will swear in Asorock Bola Tinubu as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and distinguished Senator Kashim Shettima as the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. There will be nothing called injunction. Those groups, faceless groups, that emerge out of thin air to go to try to seek for injunction, are just wasting their time, a very serious waste of time, because this election has been squarely and fairly won. Election process that took place, computerized, transparent for the whole world to see. We have the entire global leaders are attuned to this election. I'm telling you, as I'm telling you now, we have 120 heads of states that indicated interest to participate in the swearing of the incoming president and the incoming vice president. So what are we talking about? When the whole world say yes, some group of people will just emerge from thin air and try to file some, riff-raff kind of court judgment, try to say that they are going to stop the whole world from functioning. That's a huge joke. Okay. Because as I'm telling you here, the whole world is coming to Nigeria on May 29th. The whole world is coming to Nigeria in May 29th to submit to the supremacy of Nigeria's democracy. That's what I'm telling you.
Let's interrogate numbers. I'm a numbers person. In terms of performance, the Northwest has even performed poorly relative to the last election. I'll give you some numbers. Play with them. Kano, in 2019 elections, had 1 million votes for the APC. Katsina had 1.17 million votes for the APC. Kaduna had 1 million votes. 3 states alone from the Northwest in 2019 gave the APC 3 million votes. This election cycle, total votes from the Northwest, 2.7 million votes. So that's to show you that even performance threshold has dropped. So what are you rewarding? That's number one. Number two, where do you leave the North Central in all of this? Is it the SGF? Because a group was saying you should give Lalong SGF to be able to placate the North Central. So where do you leave the disgruntled part in all of this?
Thank you for having me, Dr. Ruben.
Okay, quickly. First, a clarification. Which of the two factions, because Nigeria faces the unfortunate situation whereby ahead of the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly, that National Assembly is already factionalized. You have the pro-Akpabio Stability Group, and then you have the Integrity Group. The Akpabio Group says it has 69 members of the Senate and the Senate. The other group says they have 68 members, that are opposed to the idea of zoning and are insisting on Section 50 of the 1999 Constitution, which says that, the lawmakers shall choose their leaders from among themselves and not succumb to imposition. So where do you stand? Which faction do you belong to? And what are your observations with regard to the latest development?
Thank you for this question, Dr. Ruben. What I want to clarify here is that there are no factions, in the National Assembly contest. There is the party's decision, which is always supreme, that clearly anointed Senator Godswill Akpabio for the office of the Senate President and Senator Barrow Jibrin for the office of the Deputy Senate President. And of course, naturally, in democracy, there are some people that will say perhaps maybe certain arrangement did not favor them, and conversation will start, and so many arrangements will be made that will perhaps maybe advance some certain interests for further negotiation in the making of the assembly. But to the best of my knowledge, based on what I know, I was at the media party together with them here in Lagos yesterday, and you can see about 69 senators signed the endorsement of Akpabio Barrow Stability Group. So, and in the interest of national stability, in the interest of national peace and reconciliation, this is actually, the leadership that we need to be able to give the executive arm of government the necessary support and parliamentary dispositions and enacting policies that will help in fulfilling the promise of the new form manifesto of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So, to the best of my knowledge, I think there are no factions, and most of those contesting the decisions of the party are core members of the party. It is an internal affair, and there will be, I'm sure, conversation will still be ongoing. And by the time the National Assembly is being inaugurated, I'm looking forward to us having up to 85 senators within the stability group and endorsing Akpabio and Barau Jibrin. So there are no factions. I want to correct that, and I also want to correct the fact that there are some people that are within the party that disagree with perhaps maybe the zoning arrangement, and they are looking for a way to see that these things can always be recalibrated. And I'm assuring you that by the time we reach towards the end of this month, everything will take shape, and we will have an incoming Senate President who is Senator Godswill Akpabio, and also incoming Deputy Senate President Senator Barau Jibrin, by the grace of God.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Garba. So last week, some senators-elect of the APC met with your national chairman, and they talked about the fact that they hadn't been consulted with before this zoning formula was achieved. And he had said, he apologized, he owned it, and said they would go back to the drawing board and consult. However, this week, it doesn't seem as if the consultation has been had, or perhaps it's been had and we're not aware of that, whereby we're now pushing Senator Godswill Akpabio against the wishes of perhaps some of your senators, including those of the North Central and not even the Northwest zone, who have said that they ought to be, considered for the Senate presidency. What's your take on this, despite the fact that you say that there are no factions? What is the position of the party, especially following the meeting with the chairman of the APC?
I don't think, I think that the chairman is misunderstood. If you go through the statement that the chairman made, he said that the decisions of the party remain supreme, but the party still gives them opportunity for fair hearing so that their grievances can be aired and they will be heard. But there must be need for wider consultation. That means the consultation is still ongoing and is going to be expanded. I think that's what the chairman said. But of course there are some quotations that is saying that the chairman said they are going back to drawing board. It's not about going back to drawing board. It's about the need for wider consultation. And in political terms, when you talk about wider consultation, it means a structure that will contain everybody's interests. That means the pool is going to be expanded so that everybody's interests can be contained. As simple as that. Somebody like me, I have been on the forefront of campaign for the Northwest to take the Senate presidency. I was the principal pusher of Barau Jibrin's Senate presidency. It's all over the media. But the arrangement of the party is supreme. And the party's decision was full of wisdom in the fact that they honored their promises of building a politics of national performance and the government of national competence. Our target is to ensure that the zone where we have influence, especially the Northwest, is properly accommodated and compensated with the right reward for their contribution to our victory so that we can have subsequent victories. That's the whole thing. And in the wisdom of the party, this thing is properly considered. A deputy Senate president was given to the Northwest, and a Speaker of House of Representatives was also apportioned to the Northwest. So when you look at this, we have succeeded in consolidating the promise of government or politics of national performance. That, we believe, is an incentive to encourage all other regions in subsequent elections to work harder to perform better, so that we can always, the party can always consider them in any apportioning of positions. A situation whereby we don't incentivize the areas where we have the massive amount of votes. We might not come back to them tomorrow and say, you've given us, we've given you, now we need you more. So this is as simple as that. And that is why we, as loyal party men, me, and our principal and distinguished Senator Barau Jibrin, completely aligned behind the decision of the party. And the endorsement of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Why? Because we want national stability. We want everybody to feel represented. We want all organs of government, all regions of the country to be part and parcel within the making of the system. Now we have the Senate President coming from the South-South, Deputy coming from the Northwest, we have Speaker coming from the Northwest, we have Deputy Speaker coming from the Southeast, we have Vice President coming from the Northeast, we have President coming from the Southwest, and we have the National Chairman of the party coming from the North Central. I think this is a very perfect calibration that fit into the national balance, and that is why I love the name that Akpabio Barrow Jibrin campaign chose and termed it as Group for National Stability, or the National Stability Group.
Let's interrogate numbers. I'm a numbers person. In terms of performance, the Northwest has even performed poorly relative to the last election. I'll give you some numbers. Play with them. Kano, in 2019 elections, had 1 million votes for the APC. Katsina had 1.17 million votes for the APC. Kaduna had 1 million votes. 3 states alone from the Northwest in 2019 gave the APC 3 million votes. This election cycle, total votes from the Northwest, 2.7 million votes. So that's to show you that even performance threshold has dropped. So what are you rewarding? That's number one. Number two, where do you leave the North Central in all of this? Is it the SGF? Because a group was saying you should give Lalong SGF to be able to placate the North Central. So where do you leave the disgruntled part in all of this?
Thank you, Rufai. Let me explain to you, when you look at the situation of the election performance across the country, we're not just limiting it to the Northwest. Across the country, the total number of voter turnouts has reduced. The last election, we have 29 million voters, and this election, we have 25 million voters. So this could be the reason. So a situation whereby you tally everything together in accordance to the zones of contribution, the Northwest still performed creditably well, because the total amount of votes that we got is a replica of everything that we have in the country. So we are just reflecting our realities. This is the outcome of the election. 25 million votes. We got 2.7 million votes from the Northwest, higher than every other zone. The Northwest still gave 30% of the votes. If you go back to the previous election, it's somewhere around 33%. So the difference is not much in percentile value. The only difference is the number of voter turnout reduced drastically, and we have 25 million votes compared to the last election. I believe that is the reflection we are seeing here. The second thing again about North Central, I think among all the equations, in power balancing system, North Central is more sure than the South-South, Southeast, and even the Northwest. Apart from the president-elect who come from the Southwest and the vice president-elect who come from the Northeast, it's only the North Central that have the national chairman of the party. And we shouldn't be discounting the position of national chairman of the party, because that's a very powerful, credible, influential position within the making of a democratic system. So they already have someone, the national chairman of the party. Maybe in the second round of the reallocations, where you now begin to apportion the principal leadership of the National Assembly and the government structures like the SGA, like the head of service, and some other principal officers within the executive government, then within this the distribution again in the second round, maybe they get something. But for now, North Central have something, and that is the national chairman of the party. And the national chairman of the, don't forget, distinguished Senator Abdullah Adamu was just nominated. He was just elected as the national chairman of the party during the last convention in 2012, in 2022. So we shouldn't be saying that they are left out. They are actually at the center. In fact, they are more sure, as I'm saying, than the Northeast. They are more sure than the Northwest, the South-South, and the Southeast. Why? Because they already have a presiding officer within the political setting of the country. So I think the agitation was just, it's natural within democracy. It's natural people will want to voice their opinion. It's natural they will want to belong. It's natural some of them are negotiating for other judicial committees. It's natural some of them are negotiating some interest within the government. So they come out, aspire for the Senate presidency, so that the conciliation basket can be wider, So perhaps maybe that's what it is. But for now, this country has a more stable structural political leadership than we have ever seen, and I believe all other necessary political calculation to balance the equation has been established, and that is why I say there is a wisdom behind the name of National Stability Group, because to me it's bringing huge stability. Why do I say so? We don't have only the senators of APC endorsing Akpabio Barrow Jibrin's ticket. Yesterday at the media party, we have 2 senators from the Labour Party that endorse Akpabio Barrow Jibrin ticket. We have a senator from NNPP in Kano endorsing the same ticket. We have a senator from PDP endorsing the same Senate. We have 2 senators from SDP endorsing the same stability group. What are we waiting for? It has already been consolidated. We already have a clear incoming Senate President in Senator Godswill Akpabio and the incoming Deputy Senate President in Senator Barrow Jibrin. So I think we just need to consolidate other interests. But this is very clear that the country has taken a shape. There is a considerable trust in the leadership of Asorock Bola Ahmed Tinubu that is bringing every political system in one group so that we can drive a successful government.
Adamu Garuba, it is established that you are a supporter of the stability group, because you've been talking about stability. The only stability that we are interested in is stability that will work in the best interest of Nigerians, not, a National Assembly that just mouths stability. But let me ask you, now that you have brought up the matter that there are Labour Party members, SDP members in the stability group, what do you know about this allegation that a lot of money is being distributed to ensure this autocracy of the APC in choosing in dictating, imposing the leadership of the 10th National Assembly? What do you know about money flying around? Because at least one senator has said he is part of it because money is being distributed. That's number one. Number two, have you considered the possibility that is also part of this conversation by members of your party, that some of them are prepared to defect and engage in open anti-party activities when the leadership is to be chosen? And that could happen, considering the fact that your party has a narrow majority in both chambers. In the Senate, yes, APC has 59. Opposition parties have 50. If some of your members join the opposition parties, then of course you could lose out. In the House of Representatives, the opposition parties have 200 members together. Your party has a total of 160. So are you so sure that this thing has been settled just because a segment of the APC says this is the way it is? But first, let's deal with the money we hear.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben. The issue of money politics, I think we know the angle where money politics is coming from. It's coming from the group that are agitating against the structural arrangement of the party zoning system. I think so it's known, it's on the media. For those that know, I think you can be able to Google to know those that are saying that they will want to buy the senators. But I don't believe a senator will work hard to become distinguished among great citizens of this country and allow himself to be sold cheaply